Good morning, welcome back to Papa B's Old Time Repair and Restoration. I'm Mike, and today we're going to do a little bit of an odds and ends video, and we're going to get back onto the DI project. But I feel like I've left some of y'all hanging on this 430 project, so we're going to start here, and I'm going to show you what I've done and what happened and what it took to remedy it. So we'll start with that, then we'll get over into some DI stuff, and we'll go from there. So appreciate y'all watching. Thanks for liking, thanks for subscribing, and let's get started. Okay, if y'all remember, I overhauled this 3-point rock shaft assembly on this 430. I also had an oil leak out of the front of the transmission. And unfortunately, once we got it all back together, we realized that, or I realized rather, that I had made a couple of mistakes. And so ended up, I still had the oil leak out of the front of the transmission. And what had happened is I had actually curled the lip on that input shaft seal. So I ended up having to resplit the tractor, repair that. We got it back together. Okay, and in the midst of doing that, when we were testing the rock shaft for how it worked, I found out that the only cylinder in it that was lifting was this left-hand cylinder, which is on the third arm right here. I was not building any pressure at all in the right-hand cylinder, which actually operates the two main lift arms. So I didn't record any of this. I ended up pulling all of the rock shaft assembly back off, and in a minute I'll take you back over to the table and I'll show you what I found. But another thing that we did to this project is this tractor has remote hydraulics. And this side of the tractor was full of hydraulic hoses. Evidently, at one point or the other, the steel lines had failed and they had replaced them with hydraulic hoses. So one thing that I was able to do is I recreated all of these steel lines here coming back into the remote hydraulic. And that so far has worked very well. But let's go over to the table and I'll show you where the issue lied on the 430, and we'll go from there. Well, as you can see here on the table, I have a freshly painted center section of a Dubuque rock shaft assembly. You can see it's the dual cylinder, and what I found out, and it was my own fault for not checking this very closely, but I had came in, reassembled, pulled all the plugs, brushed all the passages, labeled everything of which passage it came out of, and thought I'd done a good job putting it back together. But where I ended up having an issue is I didn't do one thing that at least the John Deere manual told me to do. And when I put this together, I didn't have a John Deere service manual on this. I was using an IT manual, and not to disparage the IT manuals, but sometimes they don't have quite enough information in there that the John Deere manuals did. So I ordered a John Deere service manual, and I was having two different issues with this rock shaft assembly. This left-hand cylinder, which operates the third arm, it would sit there and bounce up and down, and I generally call that the Ford tractor shuffle, mainly because when your lift piston gets to leaking on a Ford in-series tractor, that rock shaft just sits there and hunts up and down. And so the John Deere service manual said if you've got that issue, that hunting up and down, that you're not seated well on this check valve right here, which goes right in here. The other side we were not building any pressure hardly at all. This side, this right-hand cylinder, would just barely lift the arms, and then when you applied pressure to the arms, it would immediately go back down. And so again, the John Deere service manual said, if you're not building any pressure, then you've got an issue with the bypass valve. So when I ended up taking this back apart, I looked in here with the borescope and I could tell the seats were really bad. Now, a little history on this particular rock shaft. This was not the original rock shaft to that 430. I had pulled this off of a salvage 430 that I have, and I never did check the valve seats. So consequently, I got to looking in here with the borescope, and they were really pitted and really bad. And when I tried to lap this one, I only got about 2/3 of a circle mark with the lapping compound. And then this bypass valve here had a ridge mounted in it, or worn in it rather, and it wasn't sealing at all. So I got to looking at it, and I remembered that I had a spare rock shaft assembly, not for a W series tractor, but I think it came off a T, but the center section were the same. So I pulled it off, checked the seats, checked the valves, and they were all in really good shape. So long story short, I ended up tearing the rock shaft down, replacing this entire center section. Had to order a couple of gaskets to do it over, but it was a do-over. So the 430 is operational now. It runs, it drives, it lifts. So we're back together with that. So that was the story on the 430. My error, and nobody likes do-overs, but sometimes it happens. Okay, in the last video on the DI, we pulled the carburetor off, and if you remember right, and I'll put a couple of still pictures in here, the carburetor was not in good shape. So I'm going to show you what we ended up with this, and this is actually the first casualty of the DI project. Here's the carburetor, and I don't know if you can get in here to look into the bores of this carburetor. But it, even after several days in the electrolysis bath, is just not salvageable at all. And in fact, I'm not sure that you can even see that, but it is actually eroded down around the throttle bushing. And you can see part of the throttle bushing sticking up right in there. And I think I've got a still picture of that if it doesn't come up into the video right. But unfortunately, this is a DLTX 16. It is, it's a wall ornament is basically what it is. But unfortunately, and let me step over here, I happen to have on the shelf another DLTX 16, and it's not perfect, but the threads on the stem are good. I've got all of the plugs out of it. Got a little bit of pitting in the throttle bore, but not bad. So I still have to do the passage cleaning on this, but I think we do have a carburetor that we can use on the DI. So that's a good thing. And I've had this carburetor for years, kept thinking that I ought to redo it, pass it on eBay, and you know, for once I'm glad I didn't do it. So anyway, yeah, we've got one to replace the unsalvageable 16 on the DI. so that's good news for that. Okay, over here on the table we've got a couple pieces off of the DI. We've got the rocker arm shaft assembly and cover. Also got the upper water pipe fan shaft assembly over here. So we're going to take these apart and we're going to see what we might be able to salvage out of these. As you can see, the rust is pretty significant inside the rocker shaft cover. It doesn't get any better down toward the bottom. Looks like that rocker arm is pretty well pitted. They do get better as they move to the right over into the number 2 cylinder area, but we'll just have to see how they come out. Also be interesting to see what this gear is going to come out like. Sometimes you get lucky with casts, sometimes you don't. I'm not going to hold my breath on this gear, but we'll see what we find out. We know the bearing is bad, but we'll need to get this fan drive assembly off, get the shaft out, get this upper water pipe and associated other cast parts into the electrolysis bath and just see how they come out, and then we'll go from there. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is get these lock nuts loose. Help if we go the right direction. Get these lock nuts loose and try to get these bolts out that capture the shaft and the rocker arm assembly. All right, that bolt and the nut and everything came out. All right, same with that. Good deal. Right. I'm going to spray this down with some penetrant. I'm going to go inside the oil holes. Got my brass punch. Not sure that we moved anywhere there. Yeah. We're moving the shaft just a little bit. Of course, we're really bound up. I think I had, okay, I've got 2 rocker arms. I believe I've got 2 rocker arms that are pretty well frozen on there. I'll start again. Okay, I am going to put this bolt back in to try to lock that shaft and see if I can get these other 2 rocker arms to move. They are pretty well stuck. Okay, I think I'm going to change gears here just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and get out what I can get out of the adjustment pieces. I've got this one loosened up anyway. That one was already broke right there, but it did come out, so. See if we can get this one to move. Oh yeah, okay. Okay. Make sure that. Okay. Got that. I'm going to tap that just a little bit with the okay. All right. Let's see what we can do on this last one. Okay, we do have that loose. Wow. Turned that in pretty easy. All right. Let me get a as bad as that rocker arm is, I may just be wasting my effort here, but we'll see. Oops. Try not to lose too much hide there. Yeah, it's pretty gnarly on this side. I'm not sure this is going to come out, but we'll see. If not, we'll just leave it, as I believe the rocker arm itself is going to have to be replaced. Oh yeah, I believe we're coming out. Yeah, we're already halfway through the rocker arm. There we are. Okay. I'm not sure we'll use it, but we got it out. Okay. Now let's see. Move my table back. My table's kind of moving around. See what we've got here. Okay, we've got that one moving on the shaft. Go ahead and get some more down through the eye bolt. That one is actually doing better than the second one. Okay, let's give it a shot. Okay, let me get lock bolt out. Okay, I'm going to turn this sideways. Attempt to drive. That was the saucer expansion plug that was in the end of the shaft. Okay, we're coming out, so we'll see what we can. Okay, I think maybe there's one. The washer, spacer, washer, second one, spring. Saw a piece. That was the other expansion plug. Kind of severely deformed that. But that's okay. We can come up with something like that. And for the first of the stuck ones, there's that one. Washer. That. Another spacer. And the last rocker arm. Alright, I believe the shaft is going to come slipping right on out. And I will tell you, I'll have to clean it up, but that shaft doesn't look bad at all. May have a little bit of wear on it. We'll have to inspect that to see. Everything that I've tore apart before has been a lot worse than that. So, okay, that does it for the rocker cover. Let's move on to the fan shaft. Okay, I'm going to bring you in and just show you that is dirt and some rust. That is mostly rust right there. Of course, we've got that all up in there too. But you can see these rocker arms may be salvageable. We'll see. There's one there. That one looks like it may have some surface pitting. It just depends on how that pad will grind out right there. As you can see, we get down to here, we're getting kind of pitted, and that pad does not look too good. This fourth one is, let's see if I can get it to focus. There we go. Yeah, it could be pretty rough. But we're going to go ahead and stick all of these in the electrolysis bucket. In fact, I'll take them over to the wash vat, and we'll get the penetrating fluid off of them, and I may go ahead and stick them in tonight and just see how they come out. Well, I didn't get the rocker arms put into the electrolysis bath last night like I thought I was going to do, because I had a lot of evaporation happen into the electrolysis bucket, and my supply of liquid was way down. So I'm going to mix up a new batch of electrolysis water. And this is not a tutorial or a how-to on doing electrolysis. This is how I do it. And so your results may vary, but if you don't feel comfortable doing this, don't do it, because there are some hazards with some explosive gas generated off of this. But the way I go about it, I use washing soda, and this is what I have left in this deal. And generally I use a tablespoon of washing soda per gallon of water. So this is approximately a 5-gallon bucket. So I'm gonna put in 5 of those. And I'm gonna head outside, get my water, and I'll be right back. Okay, what I'm doing now is I'm changing my sacrificial anodes. As you can see here, maybe on this, you actually lose metal on this through the electrical transfer of the rust. And you can see some of the rust that's built up on this. and you can use anything scrap iron for that. But I keep a spare set of anodes just so I can swap them out. They say that this process is self-regulating. In other words, when either the anode can't take any more rust or the rust is gone off your part, then the electrolysis process will stop. So anyway, I'll get this set up and we'll get our rocker arms over here, and we'll film this process as it gets started. Alright, we've got our rocker arms tied onto this solid copper wire, and we'll just immerse this down into the electrolysis bath, and it can lay on the bottom. The critical thing is you don't want your part to touch the anodes. Yeah, you've got to maintain a distance. This washing soda basically turns this water into an electrolyte. In other words, it'll conduct electricity. So you put your positive on the anodes or your sacrificial metal, then you put your negative on there, and then all you do is plug in your battery charger, and away it goes. And you can tell if you can see the sparking going on there, so we know that we've got conductivity between the parts. So if you'll come here and take a look, okay, we've got the battery charger connected to the solution, and as you can see, there's a couple of things happening. There is bubbles coming up in the water, and you can also see bubbles starting to form around the anodes. And that is that electrolysis process at work. The washing soda turns this water into an electrolyte. In other words, it makes it conduct electricity. And we'll bring you back once this has been in for a day or so, and we'll show you what the anodes look like, what the parts look like. But we'll probably leave this in for 24 hours or so. But it will definitely help. If nothing else, it helps you able to bead blast these parts a lot cleaner, because you don't have to deal with near the amount of rust that you have. We've got the upper water pipe and fan shaft assembly bolted to the table, so we're going to try to go ahead and get this apart. I've removed the cotter key here. I've got my impact wrench out because I think I might need it, and I'm going to go ahead and give this another little dose of penetrant, and let's see if we can start breaking some of this loose. Well, in the process of the compressor cycling, I did get the nut off and a washer that I just dropped, and the drive disassembly was moving a little bit, and so it has moved a bit, but it is not continuing to come off. I believe I may try a 2-jaw puller. Okay, I'm going to chase these threads right fast, and I'm going to put a backer nut on there before I put the puller on to keep from swelling that nut. Now, she's pretty stiff. Pretty stiff. I had hoped that. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of heat. I've got to be careful. I've got to be careful when adding heat to these because of these discs right here. But I'm going to just attach a little bit of this. Okay, we'll see if that has done us any good. Okay, something that I can already see is the drive disc is split on the back side, so it's looking to the point that we will either buy one or maybe both of these aluminum pot metal discs. Let me get a punch and drive on the back side. All right. We have moved up against the bottom of the nut, so we'll just remove the nut and keep on. And we'll see what happens. Well, we're moving very slowly, so I'm going to just bring you back when we get this off. And just like that, through the magic of video, the fan is off. This, of course, is the one on the rear. It was already cracked, so there was, in fact, it was cracked right down the keyway, it looks like. So it was not any good, and I ended up ruining the front one as well. It looks like it could have been salvaged if I'd have been a little more careful. So, no worries, those are available. I was surprised. It looks like that the actual part of the fan that holds the friction disc has come loose from the fan. So let's see, that would go on something about like that. So I'm uncertain if that can be salvaged or not. But the DI is up to its old tricks still. One good thing, the threads seem to be good on the end of the fan shaft, and the keyway seems to be good. So we're going to move on and try to remove this front bearing and get the shaft out of the bearing and get that part taken care of. The bearing seems to be pretty firmly attached to the shaft, so okay, and there we have the bearing retainer. Want to remove. Oh, that is the, that looks like that is the sleeve pushes against the bearing. So we got that. Let's push that on forward. Okay, so we've got the inner race and we have the sleeve that goes inside the packing. So once again, if we could drive, get that to, actually no, that will not drive that direction because there is a step. Okay, so let's see. Let me get set up here with another puller. We'll try to suck that off of the shaft. Okay, we've got the puller set up on the fan shaft. I'm going to bring you in, give you a little bit better view of what we're doing here. We're trying to get the packing sleeve and the inside race off of the fan shaft. When we get that done, we can draw the shaft out of the upper water pipe assembly, and we can work on getting the other end taken apart. So I'll bring you in a little bit closer. I've got a nut over the end of the threads of the fan shaft. I'm going to do my best to keep from swelling that. There is a cotter key hole there. But I'm going to see, and just like that, looky there, here we come. Now that was less dramatic than I thought it would be, but I've beat on this assembly enough. I didn't want to do any more than I had to. So, all right. There we go. Looks like we're loose. Okay, let's just get that opened up. There we go. Take the nut off. Slip that off of there. And we'll get the fan shaft out of the water pipe assembly. Okay, next up we're going to attempt to remove the gear and the bearing. For the final part of the disassembly of the fan shaft, I'm going to attempt to remove cotter key. Now, the way I have that there, the bearing is starting to turn a little bit. It's kind of a usual thing. So we're knocking enough rust out of it to make it happen. Okay, so apply some more penetrant. We're actually spinning in the rag that I have around the fan shaft. And it hasn't moved in a bit. So I believe I am going to have to go ahead and clamp it directly in the vise. The jaws aren't very sharp on this old vise, but maybe they'll. And I'm going to do something a little different. I have these flat centers to push. I'm going to just push directly on that nut and see how we get along. Oh, she's tight. Well, I was hoping not to have to break out the big torch, because I don't like heating gears, even though probably this one is not salvageable, but we seem to be loosening up somewhere. So I'm going to put some fluid in there. And yeah. Okay. Well, as you can see, we have nothing in the vise. That must mean we've had some type of success getting everything apart. So let's do a recap on what we've been successful at and what we didn't do so well at on removing this fan shaft assembly. Okay, first of all, we do have the upper water pipe in one piece. We got the bearing out, got the packing and the fan shaft out of it. Certainly needs some cleanup. Got to get the old water sending unit bung out of that, but other than that, we're ready to start cleaning that up. First thing off the fan shaft was the fan itself, and had some difficulty with the drive disc for the fan friction disc. Got a little rough with that one. I'm sure we'll just order a pair of these. This one was cracked already from the beginning, so we've got that. But one thing that I've not seen before is that the cups that hold the friction disc and the drive disc assembly, as you can see, this one would have slipped right in here with the friction disc. They have come off the main fan, and I'm going to have to clean these up to see what I might do about salvaging this. I think the fan itself is fine. I'm thinking that possibly we can get it all lined up like that. Maybe bore some holes right there and just plug weld that back together. I don't know. Fans aren't hard to come by, so we'll see how we get along there. But again, a little bit disappointed on how that came out. And then we get to the fan shaft itself, and where I left you off the last time, I had just succeeded in destroying the thread on the gear end of the fan shaft. And I was really discouraged about that, but it's not that bad. I think at a minimum we could probably weld this up and recut the threads, recut the keyway, come out all right. The entire shaft itself wouldn't be too difficult to make. Basically just have 2 steps there plus your thread step, and step there plus a thread step, a couple keyways. You've got the little slinger ring here, which I would have to see how that comes off, but we'll think about that. And as you all have probably guessed, we're seriously considering finding a donor tractor for this project. I think you'll agree we're about to the point we need it. But what ended up happening is I should have went ahead and trusted my first thought and got the big torch out and heated this gear. I don't think this gear would have been any good anyway, and I should have just went ahead and sacrificed it. And so when I got the oxyacetylene torch out, put this in the press and put a little pressure on it, and I didn't heat very long at all, and it popped and then it pressed right off. So my own fault for destroying the threads there, but we'll get by with that. We'll make something out of it. And then of course you can see how bad the bearing itself was on the governor's side. So we'll probably have to run a bead inside this race to pop that out to save this part, but we can do that. So anyway, we're apart, and moving forward, I've got everything pretty well done that I had intended on doing before we dig further into the tractor itself. So we might go take a look at the electrolysis bucket right fast and see how we're doing there. I don't think they're ready to come out, but let's move over there and take a look. All right, as you can see, the electrolysis is doing a great job. It's been in that bucket now for about 3 hours, and I believe I'm going to let that run overnight. Then we will pull the rocker arms out, take a look, maybe go ahead and bead blast them so we can get a good look at the condition, and I will show you the results of that on the next video. Well, looks like that's a wrap from Papa B's Old Time Repair and Restoration. We've kind of seen the good and the bad and the ugly in this part of the video, getting the fan shaft and everything apart. You might be wondering, am I discouraged? No, not really. I knew that it was going to take a lot of work, but I know this tractor is well worth the time and effort it's going to take to get it back up and running like it needs to be. Am I disgusted at myself for tearing up a few things that I shouldn't have done? Yeah, pretty well. But you know, that comes with the territory, and this fan shaft is not going to be a big deal one way or the other. We'll either weld up the end and turn it, or build a new shaft, or whatever. We've got the facilities right here to do either. So we'll see how that comes out. We've seen that the electrolysis is working pretty good. So kind of anxious to see how the rocker arms are going to come out. And we've got some stuff to clean up, but we're well on our way. Probably next time we'll show you how the rocker arms turned out. I'm not sure that we'll be ready to start reassembly on the rocker cover or anything, but we'll see. We'll see if I can get some material come in, because I want to put a new rocker shaft in it. And so yeah, we'll see how that comes out. But with that, I guess it's a wrap here from Papa B's Old Time Repair and Restoration. I appreciate y'all liking, subscribing, and commenting on the videos. I really appreciate it. It's helping the channel grow, and I thank y'all for doing that. So with that, it's time to say so long. We'll see you next time.